A lot of the women who I work with, those are the fear-based beliefs that have led them to such incredible success in their lives
Mm,
because they've been proving to the world that they are enough, that they are worthy, that they are okay. And so they've been overcompensating and over-functioning, right?
yeah.
And then these women become mothers, and you and I both know because we're both mothers, there is so much uncertainty and unpredictability in motherhood. We cannot achievement brain our way through motherhood. It does not work. So now we're left with the unpredictability, the uncertainty, and the very uh, unpleasant emotions that come with those things. And we've never learned how to trust that we're okay and feel those things at the same time because we've been overperforming and overdoing and overfunctioning our whole lives.
What's up, you beautiful beasts? I'm Katie. I'm on a mission to help humans become their favorite versions of themselves and to strive for overall health by healing their relationship to food and exercise, healing their relationship to their body, and most importantly, healing their relationship to themselves, all without ever having to step on a scale. I have had the privilege to talk to all kinds of different humans who have been through a plethora of experiences just being a human and existing. I believe that every single time someone shares their story, at least one person listening will learn from it, be inspired by it, and maybe, just maybe, even change the entire direction of their life. These are the stories of humans unveiling their beautiful beast. Keep listening. This is the Unveiling the Beast podcast. Welcome to the Unveiling the Beast podcast.
I'm really happy to be here with you, Katie. We share
I'm
a name.
excited. Oh, yeah, we do. We do. It's a good name.
It's a good name. I actually
It
turned
is.
50 a couple of years ago, and I'm Catherine with a K. I was
Mm-hmm.
called Katie when I was growing up, and then somehow it evolved to Kate. But I'm like craving the Katie again. It's got like an element of play in it that I'm
Yeah, that's
like,
why I like the Katie.
yeah, I
Honestly,
like
I
it.
I went by Caitlin because my name's Caitlin.
Okay.
And then a long time ago, during the O.J. Simpson trials, people started calling me Kato Caitlin, and I'm like, nope, Katie, it is.
You're like, let's move on back to Katie. Yeah,
Yeah.
I love Katie. I think it's a perfect mix of like, got it together, but I'm also playful and don't have to take
Hmm.
everything so seriously. So it's a good name.
I love that. And I never thought about that. And it suits me too because I'm like huge on fun matters,
Yeah.
especially as we get older because it
Yes.
seems like somewhere along the way somebody's like, you reach a certain age, you're not allowed to have fun anymore. And then it's like dress your age. And then it's like, what does that mean? Like, this is how we dressed back in my day.
From a mental health perspective, people who uh, struggle with anxiety and or depression are also typically folks who are not engaging in play.
That makes
So
sense.
this element of fun and play and taking ourselves a little less seriously is actually a really important piece of mental health and well-being. So,
Yeah, I agree. I've been hanging out with my son all summer. He's 8, and
uh-huh.
we've just been recording these fun reels, like running through the sprinklers and dancing and like all this fun stuff. We went zip lining at my friend's house, and I just started incorporating the fun matters like hashtag that I've been using because it so matters, even if it's with
It
your kids.
it does. And I mean, I'm sure we'll get into all of this today, but the women who I spend my most time with in my work are women who don't typically know how to play. The
Mm,
idea of play feels so foreign. It feels sort of scary. It's like there's something that's disconnected to their sense of self and how they're so used to spending their time. And I do think that we have a lot of myths around what play is. We
mm,
have these like, it can feel like this big giant thing. Like I have to play as if it's gonna, somehow create, we have to have a different persona in order to play. But really, play is like I always say I grew up in New York City, and you can't take New York City out of the grill. I'm in Colorado now, but to me, play is like in fashion, quote unquote fashion. It's like what I wear every day. I get to play a
Mhm.
little bit and think outside the box. So I think there's a way that we can play and have fun that doesn't require us to necessarily get out the dolls or the
Yeah.
box or the fantasy play that we are sort of make up in our mind is required to play. Anyway, I don't know. I just took us on a tangent, Katie, but
No, I love that. Well, I do want to dig into that more, but first,
yes.
can you tell the listeners and myself a little bit about who you are and why you think you are who you are?
Yep, great question. So, who am I today? Today, I am a 52-year-old woman woman and mother. Really important that I say both of those things for the point of this conversation. I've got two teenage daughters who are 16 and 18. I live in Boulder, Colorado with my husband and our daughters and our amazing dog. I have built my career around maternal and child mental health. And so, what I do in my work is I help high performing, high achieving women who have, some big purpose in their lives outside of being a mom, also raise healthy, happy, what's the word I want to use? I don't remember the word I was going to use, but you know what I mean.
Grounded.
Healthy kids, grounded,
Mm,
kids who are, I think we get stuck in this dilemma as women often, especially with all the pressure around there of what it means to be a quote unquote good mom, a feeling we have to choose, right? Do I need to be a
yeah.
good mom? Do I need to be around all the time? Do I need to quote unquote play with my child all the time, right? Doing more. What do I have to do to be a good mom? And my work is really around eliminating anxiety and guilt and burnout from motherhood so that we as women and mothers feel and really believe that we can do both. So I've been in the field of maternal and child mental health for over 2 decades. I started a clinic here in Colorado called the Postpartum Wellness Center. It's now the Parent and Family Wellness Center. I ran that for 15 years. I moved away from more traditional psychotherapy into coaching and consulting and mentoring and speaking. And really, my goal is to make sure that we have both women out there doing inspired, amazing things in the world and also healthy kids. And we want that attachment between moms and kids to be safe and secure and sound. So that's me and
Yes.
my work.
I love what you're doing because, like, specifically pinpointing the mom guilt thing. That's a huge
Yeah.
thing, especially in the United States. I've heard that in some countries it's not even a thing, but there's this aspect of like we are expected to do all of it and be good at it. And no, no,
It's
thank you.
it's a setup. It really is a setup. The
Yeah,
word I was trying to think of is well adjusted. And I use that word like it's a really important kind of concept, this idea of a well-adjusted child, right? And we can come back to that later if we want to, but the guilt, all the information, the pressure, and it's a setup because we do have a lot of pressure in our culture to be bigger, better, more, right? That is
yeah,
just the system, that it's the air that we breathe being raised in the United States, right?
right.
Bigger, better, more. And so we, on one hand, believe that there's a path for us as women to do that, which I think is an important belief to have. But we're not set up in our culture, in our communities, to know that we can do that and still raise healthy kids because the pressure around mothering and what it means to be a good parent with everything on the internet and social media and this idea that we need to be involved in everything all the time. And it just is it's a recipe for burnout and overwhelm. And from where I sit, from a mental health perspective and an attachment focused perspective, the things that we're taught to believe are necessary are not necessary. And there is no time to do both the way we are taught to do it all. It's not possible that way. So we need to find a new way because I do believe we can show up and feel the way we want to feel in our life, both professionally and personally.
Yeah. And to your point of you mentioned we believe that there's this path and which is a good thing and the path is different for everybody depending on the mom, depending on the kids, depending on how many kids, like it's different for everybody. So yes, there is a path for you, but it's not her path and it's not her path and it's not their path, right?
That's
So,
right. Yeah, there's no one right way to raise
mhm,
a child, and there's no one right way to be of service to the world, right? There are some women that I'm sure listen to your podcast who are doing big, bold, huge things with their life, right?
mhm,
Who are public facing, who are making big change. Those women are doing amazing work. So are the women who have very small, more locally community focused, quote unquote, work that they're doing, right? Interestingly, we do know that women who are mothers who do not have something outside of motherhood that they're invested in, they suffer more. They struggle with more depression and anxiety than women who are mothers who also have something outside of motherhood that they're committed to. And again, it does not need to be giant, but it's
right.
something. So you're right. There's no one right way to do any of it.
Yeah. So I'm curious, what's your story? Like what brought you to all of this work that you're doing?
Yeah, thanks for asking.
Hmm.
So I was raised in New York City by two very driven parents, professionally driven parents. Both my parents were lawyers. I grew up with a lot of privilege. I sort of what I was as far as if good parenting is make sure that your children have everything they need to succeed, I had it, right? I had a great education. I lived in a beautiful home. I had a lot, healthy food on my plate. I mean, I was given everything that we would hope we can give our children so they can be healthy and well. I was
Hmm.
loved by my parents. My parents were both incredibly anxious humans.
Mm.
And they brought that anxiety home with them, right? Not intentionally, but the air they breathed out was the air I breathed in as a child.
Mm.
And so I, like again, many of your listeners, grew up as sort of I was intent on being perfect and being the good girl and tending to everybody's needs and achieving. So I was sort of raised in this achievement focused family culture. And I struggled with so much anxiety and panic attacks as a kid. I watched my mom do amazing things in her career, but forego her own health and well being in the process.
Hmm.
And I it's funny when I knew I wanted to do something in the world of psychology and mental health and well being. I thought I wanted to work with kids. I came out of that thinking I wanted to be a child and adolescent therapist. And what I learned very quickly in my early training was that those kids didn't want to be in my office, but their moms did. The
Mm.
moms were needing support. And as soon as I helped those moms get what they needed to feel healthy and well themselves, their kids started doing better, right? The things that we were seeing their kids struggle with began to decline. So, yeah, so I just decided, when I became a mom, I wanted to do it differently than my mom did. I had very severe postpartum anxiety after my first daughter was born. She's now 18. I knew I wanted to be a working mom, but I knew I wanted to do it differently than my mom did. And so I just created a whole career around how can I make sure that women don't have to suffer with so much anxiety and guilt and burnout in their efforts to do both.
Mm. I love that. Thank you for sharing.
Sure.
Um, I wanted to rewind a little bit and talk about how you said you had everything you needed. Um, and how do I word this? Like, there's this aspect of like what the outside world tells us how we're supposed to be moms. And so, like, there's the piece that you're talking about where we had, the healthy food, we had the clothes, we had the schooling, we had all this stuff. And then there's another piece where, oh my gosh, you're such a fun mom. There's so much love and, you know, whatever the other things that don't fit here. So these kids can have these things without these things. And these kids can have these things without these things. And so then from whoever's perspective, I hope this is all making sense. Like, are they both good moms? Right? Because we tell
Yeah.
ourselves, I'm not doing this thing and therefore I'm not a good mom, even though I'm doing all this stuff over here. And I'm gonna own that for me. Like, there's been times when I'm like, I'm really fun, but do I give him too much screen time? Or I'm really fun and we do all these fun things, but he had Cheetos last night, certain things like that. So it's like, am I still a good mom? And then this is for some women, like where this guilt comes from. So what are your thoughts on that?
I love that you're bringing this up. It's like my favorite thing to talk about. And let's first acknowledge how problematic the term good mom is.
Mm-hmm.
Because when we ask ourselves, are we being a good mom? Really, what we're saying is, I'm terrified of being a bad mom, right? There's these
Yeah.
binary ideas of success: good, bad,
Mm-hmm.
right, wrong, right? And motherhood is so nuanced, it's so multidimensional. What I think we want to be asking is a different question: is, am I being successful in my mothering of my child? We can
Mm-hmm.
even ask that a different way, right? Am I creating the kind of relationship with my child where my child feels safe and secure? Do they feel seen, heard, and understood? Why I want us to be asking that question instead of, am I a good mom or a bad mom, is good mom, bad mom is such an achievement oriented question. We look at what are we doing or not doing. It's so achievement
Yeah.
focused. It's so goal oriented. And relationships are live at a whole different realm, right?
Yeah.
What we know from decades of research in child health, in child development, in relationship development, and family health is that the children who are the quote unquote healthiest, and what I mean by that is like developmentally, socially, emotionally, they go on to be the most confident, secure individuals, are children who are raised in families, I'm going to say it again, where they felt seen, heard, and understood. Full stop. It does not matter what you're feeding your child for dinner. It does not matter how much screen time they're watching. It does not matter whether they're co-sleeping or sleeping on their own, breastfed, baby fed, public school, private school, daycare, nanny, stay at home, working. Those things do not matter the way we tell ourselves they matter. Now, let me reframe that a little bit because of course we want to be intentional, right, in what we're feeding our children. We want to be intentional in
Right.
the choices we're making. But what matters most is that we are raising kids where we're creating what's called a secure attachment. And a secure attachment means that we are creating a relationship where our child feels safe enough to be exactly who they are with what they're feeling when they're with us. That they don't feel like they have to feel different, behave different, act different to be loved.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, boundaries, I'm all for them. So I'm not suggesting that we just throw everything up and say you can do whatever you want, eat whatever you want, and behave any way you want. We need boundaries. But it's much more about how we're showing up in the moments with our children than what we're feeding them. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
This is very paralleled to the work I do. I help people heal their relationship to food, exercise, body, and self. And it's that same thing, like food is not good or bad. Like it's not like sometimes going through the drive-through because you're at your wit's end and you're like overstimulated and it's going to give you more time with your family, that's the healthier option. All the time, no. But to your point, like we put everything as black and white and it's not like that in any scenario in any of our lives, right?
Well, yeah, I think that's right, Katie. And I think the black and white rigid thinking, again, it comes from a part of the brain that I'm going to call the achievement brain,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's not, I mean, again, the the rigid thinking can be really helpful in certain parts of our life.
Mm-hmm.
It is not helpful in relationship building, whether we're building a relationship with ourselves or food in the case of you, or our children in the case of me, right? That rigid thinking will get in the way of the nuance that has to do with being present in this moment and responding to this moment with intentional choices. We can get so into the good, bad, right, wrong mindset that we miss the moment, right? We miss the
Yes.
moment of opportunity.
Yes. You brought up,
One,
oh, sorry,
go.
go
No, no,
ahead.
no, you go.
No, I was just
Nope.
going to say you brought up two of my favorite nuance, and I forgot the second one because I'm 40. So,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Well, I think it's really interesting. One of the things, if we look at parenting and motherhood, right? One of the things that we are led to believe in 2025 is that we're successful mothers if our kids are happy,
Hmm.
right? Like our
Yeah.
goal is to make sure that our kids are happy. And this is so problematic. It's so problematic because the messaging underneath that is that sadness, disappointment, fear, anger is bad,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
And what's happening, what I see happening, and it's been interesting, Katie, I've watched this evolve over 20 years of doing this work, and it changes. It's like that with the new generations of women having babies, this changes. But what happens is that we put so much pressure on ourselves as mothers to avoid discomfort and pain, and to think that we are being a quote unquote bad mom if our child is feeling discomfort or pain, and to do everything we can to promote comfort and happiness. And then we raise these kids who are so dependent on things outside of them to trust that they're okay,
Hmm.
right? And really, again, if I look at myself as a woman, an evolving woman, and I look at my kids who are now young women, 16 and 18, best thing I can do for those kiddos is help them understand that they can feel emotional discomfort and still be okay.
Yeah. I'm loving this conversation. Like, I feel like the way you're describing all these things is the way I've needed to hear it, if that makes sense. Like, I've heard this discussed before, but the way you're talking about it is like wrapped up in a beautiful package with a beautiful bow. So, thank you.
Well, my guess is it's actually not. So you work with women, with women and men? Remind me, all
Yeah,
people?
mostly women, but men too. Men suffer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Around their relationships with food and their body. And of course, it's not that different, right? Even in my work, when I'm working on helping people form really healthy, secure relationships with their kids,
Hmm.
the portal to that is a healthy, secure relationship with ourselves first.
Yes.
And I'm sure that's the
Yeah.
same thing you do.
Hmm. Yeah.
And isn't it interesting how even in that we can think, well, a secure, healthy relationship with myself means that I'm feeling good all the time,
No.
right? No.
Yeah.
I mean, what a setup that is,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I think there is an achievement focused brain and there is a connection focused brain. And what we need to be able to connect with ourselves and our kids and food and our partners and our jobs and everything is to learn how to use that connection part of our brain. It's
Yeah.
very different brain function.
Yeah, and the relationship to self piece, like that's the ultimate, that's the biggest one. Like there's the relationship to the other things I've talked about, but ultimately it's relationship to yourself. And in my case, in my client's case, it's so that you can go on your health adventure from a place of love instead of hate, you know? Because most people are like, "Oh my gosh, I'm fat. I need to change my body. I hate my body. Let me go do all these things," rather than like having that good relationship with yourself, which took me years and lots of healing, and I'm still working on it. We're always mentally a work in progress, but it's such a different mindset to say like I'm going to go outside and go for a walk because it makes me feel good and it makes my mind feel good versus let's see how many calories I can burn so that I can shrink my body as tiny as possible because the outside tells me that I need to be as small as possible. Like it's
That's
such a
right.
huge it's a huge mindset difference and it's the same activity.
That's right. And I might add that it's not just a mindset shift, it's literally a different part of the brain, right? So
Mm,
that achievement brain is analyzing and intellectualizing and comparing and counting,
mm-hmm.
right? It's that I will feel good when I hit whatever marker, right? The connection brain is much more about those are the brain functions that help us be present in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
They're the parts of our brain function that help us actually feel instead of jump into doing something to fix how we feel. It's such a
Yeah.
different part of the brain. It's really interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. So do you have like specific techniques or anything that you use with the moms that are trying to heal this relationship to themselves?
Yeah. So um, the template that I use in my work is a well-studied template that reminds us that our deepest beliefs about ourselves, which are often unconscious and very old,
Mm-hmm.
lead to the kind of thoughts we have on a regular basis, right? Our more conscious thoughts. Those thoughts lead to how we feel emotionally. Our emotions motivate behaviors. Those behaviors turn into habits and actions, right? And those habits and actions lead to what our life looks like, the results of our life. So if I am talking to a woman who's a mom, most of my clients have younger kids, right? New motherhood, their kids are fairly
Mm-hmm.
young. And that mom is feeling she's got mom rage and she's feeling worried about her kid all the time and she's feeling a lot of guilt and fear that she's messing up and she's, overwhelmed because she's trying to figure out how do I show up and work the way I want to while also being a good mom and she's stuck in all of that stuff. That woman is I guess there could be some outliers, but almost always going to also be the woman who has some deep buried, fear based, limiting belief about herself that sounds like I'm not enough, I'm not okay, I'm not worthy. I am certain this is very similar to the work that you do.
Yeah.
And what's interesting about this is that a lot of the women who I work with, those are the fear based beliefs that have led them to such incredible success in their lives
Mm,
because they've been proving to the world that they are enough, that they are worthy, that they are okay. And so they've been overcompensating and over functioning, right?
yeah.
And then these women become mothers, and you and I both know because we're both mothers, there is so much uncertainty and unpredictability in motherhood. We cannot achievement brain our way through motherhood. It does not work. So now we're left with the unpredictability, the uncertainty, and the very uh, unpleasant emotions that come with those things. And we've never learned how to trust that we're okay and feel those things at the same time because we've been overperforming and overdoing and overfunctioning our whole lives.
Yeah.
So, a lot of coaching or therapy, when I was doing therapy, even, or kind of parent coaching, can be around learning to do different things,
Mm-hmm.
behavior modification, which, by the way, I'm all for it. But the behavior modification is not going to work until we poke holes in those old fear-based limiting beliefs. Because if there's incongruence, a mismatch between how we think of ourselves when we're behind closed doors at night and how, the choices we're making, if there's an incongruence in those things, it's not going to last. The self-care is not going to be sustainable. So we have to find a way to make sure that we can line those things up. And, interestingly, as soon as we poke holes in those deeper beliefs, our thoughts begin to change, our feelings begin to change, our habits begin to change. And then suddenly we have the relationships with our kids we've always wanted. And we're
Mm-hmm.
feeling more rested and we're feeling more confident and we're more willing to make mistakes and then learn from them and come back and repair, which, by the way, is the glue in relationships anyway, is the repair. We have to make mistakes to have strong relationships. And so we repair more easily. And then we tend to find that we have more, kind of I don't love the word balance as working moms. That's a really tricky thing
Thank
to
you.
get
Thank you.
melody, movement between the two. We
Yeah.
tend to dance more through those
Yeah.
things. Please.
I like that you said that balance piece because I don't think there's such thing as work-life balance. It's like it's more so keeping ourselves centered so that the stuff around us doesn't, I don't even know what the word, but you know what I'm trying to say, right? It's like the goal, I don't like saying shouldn't, but the goal shouldn't be work-life balance because you're not going to achieve that. Maybe some people have, but they probably have help. You know?
Well, and also the word balance, it comes back into that rigid thinking again. We think
Mhm.
if it's balanced, this has to be this and this has to be this, and we can't move
Yeah.
away from that. But I love what you're saying. It's actually so spot on to the research, which is that when I learn how to find steadiness on the inside, and I may not feel steady all the time. What human feels steady all the time? But when I
Right.
know how to get myself back to a sense of steadiness, even when the world around me is unpredictable and uncertain and chaotic, that is how I can move through my life with more grace. Dare
Yeah.
I say, even ease? It's not going to be easy, but I can move through with more ease if I know how to find that stability on the inside versus having to try to change things on the outside so that I feel stable on the inside. So it's just a
Yes.
different priority. And it's one that becomes more sustainable and long lasting. And actually, when we talk about secure attachment, that is what our kids need to be healthy and well. That's why
Mhm.
I go back to, like, it doesn't matter if you're giving your kids Cheez-Its or whatever the thing is. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter. What is the state of being in which you hand your child that's Cheez It? Because you can hand your child a piece of
Yes.
broccoli and be all angsty and anxious on the inside. That's going to be less healthy for your child than handing your kid that chip from a place of stability and groundedness and connection.
Yes. Thank you. It's sometimes it's hard to explain that to people because I do, I say all foods fit in a healthy diet, and that doesn't mean I'm throwing nutrition out the window because nutrition's super important. But in your example, all foods fit. Give your kids some chips sometimes if it's going to help you stay mentally, well, maybe not stable, but if it's going to
Steady,
help,
steady.
yeah,
Mhm.
steady, if it's going to help with that centeredness, give your kid the damn chip. It's always, like you said earlier, the intention behind it and the nuance.
This is why I want women to understand they don't have to choose,
Mhm.
right? So if I am a full-time working mom, let's say, right? Let's say I'm a woman with a career that demands a lot of hours away from home.
Mhm.
And we have lots of types of jobs. Some demand a lot of hours from away from home, and some demand very few hours away of home. But let's just, for conversation's sake, talk about that woman who is at work a lot, right? What we know about building a healthy relationship with our children is it's not the quantity of time we spend with them. It's how are we showing up when we are with them. And so that parent has an equal opportunity to create a secure, loving, fulfilling attachment with her child that's going to lead her child to be healthy and well and self assured and trusting of that relationship and well bonded. Equal opportunity as the parent who's staying home all the time with her child, because we know that there are a lot of stay-at-home moms who are really struggling. They're not
Yeah.
present, they're distracted, and they're angsty, and they're not feeling fulfilled. And of course, we have plenty who are feeling fulfilled and connected, but we certainly have some who are not. And so it's not the quantity, it's the quality. And when we can learn how to be in really close connected relationships with ourselves so that we feel steady on the inside, and we have 20 minutes with our child at the end of the day, that 20 minutes can be so much more fulfilling and generating for that child in our relationship than a parent who's with their kid all day if they're not showing up the way we hope that they will. And even that stay-at-home parent, I should say this too, that stay-at-home parent, please don't have the pressure, if you're that person listening, to be present with your child the entire time you're with them. It's actually not good for your kiddo because secure attachment requires both separation and connection.
Hmm.
So we need to know how, to your point, to sort of move through the nuances of the moment so that we can have a stability and a baseline of health and well-being. And just fall back to that. We do not have to be perfect all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. And I want to add to that a little bit too. This is where it goes back to like us having that good relationship with ourselves so that we can filter out what the outside world is saying, because the moms who have all that time away and then have this, huge career and they're away a lot, they hear must be nice to have somebody else raising your kids. And then the stay-at-home mom, which is a job in itself, hears must be nice not to have to work. And so it's like, to the mom who sees that and hears both sides, it's almost like, what do I do? And
Well,
so it comes back to like having that, like, okay, whatever, Karen, whatever, Sally, say what you want. I have a good relationship with my kid. So,
so the interesting part of this, Katie, is that whatever that woman believes to be true about herself is going to determine how she perceives those comments.
hmm.
So if I have a deep fear-based belief about myself that I'm not enough, doesn't matter if I'm a working mom or a stay-at-home mom. Confirmation bias, which is a brain function, is
Hmm.
going to look and listen for what's out there to prove that my belief about myself is true. I mean, that's a brain function. We all have that brain function.
Right.
I believe something, my brain is going to interpret the world around me as evidence of that thing. And that's why we have to go back to these beliefs. Because if I believe that I'm inherently enough and I'm inherently okay, and I hear someone make that comment, must be nice, I'm not going to take it personally. I'm going to be able to hear that as a reflection of how that person feels, not about me. If I believe I'm not enough, I'm not okay, I'm going to hear that as evidence of that. So that's what's so interesting. It is how we feel about ourselves as mothers. It really is not dependent on whether or not we're working or staying home, whether or not we're feeding our kids Cheez-Its or broccoli, right? It has everything to do with what are those deeper beliefs about ourselves. And then I'll take it one step further, which we may be like, okay, put a cap on that because that's a whole other hour of conversation. But how I feel about myself is how I'm going to feel about my child.
Mm.
So that's called projection. How I feel about myself on the inside is how I'm going to interpret the world around me. So if I believe I'm not enough, for example, I'm going to assess how my child is doing from a perspective of not enough. I'm going to see that they're not eating enough. They're not eye engaging, in looking at me in the eye enough. They're not sleeping enough. The perspective that I view my child will come from that same belief I have about myself. My version of this, Katie, is that my entire life growing up, I would say, I mean, I can remember hearing the words in my head, I'm not okay. I'm not okay. I wouldn't even know why. It was just a sense of like dread, like I'm not okay. Something's wrong. I'm not okay. And it showed up as like hypochondria and it showed up in social situations. And anyway, that was my mantra. I had this beautiful baby girl, healthy, 9 on the APGAR scale, right? She was born a healthy child. I was convinced she was not okay.
Mm.
Convinced she was not okay. And there was never anything wrong with her. That it was never about her, right? It was always about me. And so when I did my own deep work, my kids were young, to poke holes in these beliefs, I suddenly realized that as soon as I learned to trust that I was okay, I just began to trust that my kiddo was okay. Even if she wasn't invited to someone's birthday party, or she had a cold or the flu, or she was angry and sad and I didn't know why, right? I would just have this baseline of those things can all exist and I trust that she's okay at the same time.
Mm.
But what shifted had nothing to do with her and everything to do with me. It's just such a fascinating conversation. Yeah,
Yeah.
no,
And I
it's
could
great.
talk about this for hours. I mean, I struggled so hard with mom guilt in the past. I still have moments. I'm actually working with a coach right now on feeling guilty about everything, which I've done quite a bit of healing. And that comes from both my parents
I bet.
and have been divorced since I was 7. And and so now it's kind of like a running joke with me and my husband where I'll be like, okay, I'm gonna go upstairs and do this interview. I have guilt. And he's like, that's because you're you.
Well,
So,
yeah, what are the thing in motherhood, what are the things that would lead you to feel guilty? What types of things have made you feel guilty in motherhood?
well, the first like hardcore guilt that I felt was when I went back to work full time. And I was
Mhm.
like, he's he's away from me, and that in itself caused guilt. Um,
Can I ask you a question about that?
yeah, sure.
Was that because there was a belief in there that good moms spend time with spend all their time with their kids? What was the
Oh,
so
yeah.
in my work, guilt, when I talk about guilt in my work, guilt is the assumption that we're breaking some kind of rule.
Yeah.
And the question becomes,
Yeah.
whose rule are we breaking? Right. So what
Hmm.
was the rule when you went? Because this is that you just brought up the thing that I think so many of us struggle with. So when you went back to work full time, what perceived rule were you breaking?
It was the rule like I should be with my baby at all times. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I love that you
Yeah.
bring that up. That's one of my favorite exercises that I was trained with as a coach, and
Yeah.
it's fabulously with the food aspect. But back
Yeah,
to
I
what you were
bet.
saying, like the rule I was breaking was good moms don't leave their babies with somebody else.
Yes.
Hmm.
Yes.
Yeah,
I mean, if we could say to your listeners, anyone who can relate to that, raise their hand, I bet you there would be thousands of hands raised right
yeah,
now. Like that
yeah,
is a very common, often not talked about, but it's just their belief. And it's not a fact, but it is a
yeah.
belief. And sometimes we confuse facts with beliefs. So,
Yeah.
how did you work through that?
A coach.
And what was the process though? What was the like what was helpful for you in working through that guilt so that you could engage in your work and
Mm,
still, you know, breathe?
that's a good question because this was a long time ago. This was in 2019, and this was also the beginning of me doing my deep inner work for
Yes.
myself. And so
Yes.
like 2019 Katie is wildly different from 2025 Katie. And
Yes.
like I do
Wow.
still have instances of guilt come up, but for me
Sure.
it's this when I'm at work, I feel guilty that I'm away from my son. And
Mhm.
with my son, like if I'm with my son and not working, then I feel guilty that I'm not
Yep.
providing for the household. So
Very
it's like
universal.
this
Yep.
I can't win mindset.
Yep.
And I think for me, being able to shift into I am winning
Mm.
versus I can't win, like I'm winning
Mm.
in the best way I know how to win with the tools and sources that I have, like working with what I have right now, I'm winning. And
I
so,
think you're bringing up such an interesting point here, which is, again, our thoughts are so powerful, right? Think about confirmation bias. I can't win. You're going to spend all day, every day. Your brain is only going to track the things that prove that you're failing,
yeah.
that you can't win.
Mm-hmm.
I am winning, or in what ways am I winning? Right? Even just asking those questions opens up a different pathway for our brain. And of course, it's all true. There are things you're winning in and things you're failing in, like welcome to being a human being,
Yeah.
right? It's
Yeah.
all true. Gosh, our thoughts. The way you said that just reminded me like our thoughts are so powerful. And what
Yeah.
happens next?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think you're speaking for working moms everywhere. I mean, that is a very, I hear that fear and that trap often. I feel guilty when I'm at work that I'm not home. And when I'm at home, I feel guilty I'm not working. Like, where does that leave me? And of course, we get to then redefine what success looks like. We get
Mm-hmm.
to choose. That's the part that's always so interesting, right? It's like Oh, we are grown-ups. We get to choose how we want to define things.
Yeah.
It's powerful.
Yeah. Another example, this is like well, in my head, it's a lesser example, but letting my
Yeah.
son play video games.
Yep.
And then finally I was like, I played video games and I turned out
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
You know? And now I play
Yeah.
video games with him. We both love
Yeah.
Minecraft
Yeah.
and we do like it's such
Yeah.
a you can learn a lot from the video games they have these days versus us playing Mortal Kombat when you know. So it's again it's a mindset shift of like what is he learning in this game versus that game's gonna rot out his brain and knowing like just saying that out loud, that came from my grandma. You know, those games
Totally.
are gonna rot their brains. Well,
Yep.
yeah, if they play it 24/7, maybe.
Yep.
So,
Yep. Yeah. Everything's neutral until we give it meaning. And
hmm
the meaning we give it is usually going to be from old beliefs that were not even
yeah,
ours in the first place, to your
yeah.
point.
I like that you brought that back around because, you know, like you said, sometimes we're living our entire life on these belief systems that we don't even know exist,
That's right.
right? Um, and to bring it back to my own healing, one of the biggest concepts I've learned in the last 5 or 6 years is notice without judging. So just it's that awareness piece. Notice that I do this thing. Notice that I hide food in my car when I'm eating, even if I'm eating a
Mm,
carrot stick
mm,
versus chips.
mm,
Notice um, how I feel when I give my child a bag of Cheetos. It's the noticing piece and then trying to figure out what my belief is about this thing, like what would be the judgment
mm.
and where did that come from?
Totally.
So,
There's a really useful little trick that I can leave you with for your listeners that I use often in this note. The noticing piece is so important, right? Because we can't change anything we're not aware of. Full
mhm.
stop.
Yeah.
Um, and it's a three-step process. And this is a great practice for when we're saying things to ourselves that are finite, right? I am a failure. I can't do this. Um, I'm a bad mom, right?
Mhm.
Or even I am anxious. Three steps. First one is that first statement. I am a bad mom. I am anxious. I am a failure. Second step is I feel like a bad mom. I feel like a failure. I feel anxious. And the third step is I am aware that I feel like a bad mom. I'm aware that I
Mm,
feel like a failure. I am aware that I feel anxious. And as we step away, as we gain some perspective between ourselves and the experience, we now have room to change it.
mm,
But when we're defining ourselves by it, there's no room to shift it and no
yeah,
room to change it. So, yeah, I love that. I mean, I think awareness is, we have to start there.
yeah. Well, I have one more question for you,
Yeah,
and you may or may not have answered it already, but
it's okay.
I ask at the end of every episode. I recently started asking it differently. Uh,
Hmm.
if everybody in the world stopped what they were doing and looked at you and said, Kate, please give me some advice, what would you say?
I would say there's nothing wrong with you. Start there. If you believed that there was nothing wrong with you, how would you move through your world differently? I think that's what comes to mind today.
Mm, beautiful.
To, yeah.
Beautiful beasts, Kate Kripke signing off. Until next time.